Pierre, what goes through your mind, or what went through your mind when you heard the tragedy of Parker Wells? When you think of your own family. Parker Wells, Veronica Hudson, Dawson Romeo, Draven Graham, Driana Manamona. Ladies and gentlemen, these are just some of the autistic children that have suffered a tragedy because we don't have the proper alert and emergency response systems in place. Parker Wells was the latest example of a family who didn't know what their child was going to do until it happened. He eloped from a daycare, just curious, and ended up falling to tragedy. Mom and Dad did everything that they could to try and find him, but they could not get an Amber Alert out because of the current restrictions. And this is the worst nightmare for any parent with a child with autism or any special needs. And joining me to talk to about this today and how it affects our lives are two other fathers with autistic kids, Pierre Poilievre and Mike Lake. Guys, thanks for joining me today.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
So, we've talked about this a little bit on the show, but Vincent has actually eloped a couple of times. The first time, it was actually after ABA therapy, and they had inadvertently taught him actually how to climb out a window and climb into a washing machine. They thought they were teaching him safe versus unsafe, but vocabulary is a challenge for kids with autism, as you both know, and how's he supposed to know what safe and unsafe actually means? And we woke up at 7 in the morning, and one of the pets was kind of making noises, thank goodness, and Vincent was gone. The front door was closed, but he had disappeared, and we thought we were never going to see him again. Thank goodness he went to the park that was only about 300 yards away versus the storm pond, which was 100 yards away. But we tried our best to secure the house, and the second time he actually climbed out his own window, scaled down the side of a 2-story house with 2 of his stuffed animals and a blanket, and opened the neighbor's door and crawled into bed with them. Thank goodness they noticed who he was, called the police, but the police didn't believe it. They didn't believe us, and it shows that you can do everything that you think you need to do, but these kids, if they want to do something, they will. And Mike, you have a 30-year-old child with autism. Did you go through any of this when he was growing up?
Oh, for sure. Jaden, in fact, actually, in the early days, when he was before he even went to school, I remember putting knives in the door jambs to just to make sure that he didn't sneak away and open a door when we were sleeping. There was a time at Sylvan Lake that he got out of a cottage that we were at, and no one knew. And a neighbor knocked on the door and brought him back. Multiple different times like that, where, in Jaden's case, he's got a very visual memory, so he kind of knows what it is that he likes. He knows where it usually is, so he kind of knows how to get there. And something like asking permission or even flagging it, especially back then. I think it's gotten a little bit better as he's gotten older, but certainly when he was younger, it was a real challenge. And just the knowledge of what danger looks like and how it presents itself. I remember one time we were at a friend's place visiting in Toronto, and they had a pool in the backyard, and he had gone, opened the door and gone out into the backyard. He was probably about somewhere between 7 and 9 at the time, and he actually stepped on top of the tarp of the pool. And thankfully we were watching, and obviously got up and ran out right away. But he's drawn to water. He is curious, to use the word that you used. He as well as curious, and just that abstract inability to understand danger the way we might understand danger presents a real challenge.
And the interesting thing is drowning is actually one of the leading causes of autistic kids, and they attribute that just because water is so sensory oriented. They love the reflections, they love how it feels on their skin and the sound, but it also goes to the point that drowning is one of the leading causes of children under 14 in Canada as well when it comes to accidents. Pierre, when it comes to Valentina, has she conveyed any elopement indicators yet, or is she pretty stationary? I know she loves to
No,
move.
she's definitely not stationary. It's funny, she doesn't speak a lot, but the first words she ever spoke were go, go, go. And we don't quite know how she learned those words, but they are those three identical words are the best summary of her personality. She loves motion, and she also loves danger. She gravitates towards the most dangerous thing that there is. So if we're at a friend's place and she looks out the window and sees there's a pool, she will fight her way out into that yard, and she will seek to go to that pool. And so you have to grab her and bring her back, and you might have to do that 15, 20 times in a social evening to stop her from jumping in a pool without a life jacket on. She loves speed, so she gets onto her little scooter and she wants to go down the hill as fast as she possibly can. And she loves height, so she will climb to the highest point in any room, and that's where she will perch. So all of those things bring danger. There's been a few times when we've been at a big play structure outside and she's vanished momentarily. Just see something, tears off, when my eyes might be on her little brother. We look back and she's gone, and it's usually only 90 seconds or less, maybe 10, 15 seconds before you find her. But my God, those are the worst 10 or 15 seconds of your life. All the worst thoughts run through your mind. She's not really old enough to figure out how to open the door yet. And we have a chain on the door, which is out of her reach. So even if she got up in the middle of the night and went down, she would not be able to get out. But she's 7 now. When she's 10, 11 years old, that will be a different story. So we have to be vigilant and plan and do absolutely everything we can. All the daycares that she's part of, every summer camp, we do a tremendous amount of research on the security and on the plans they have to keep kids from fleeing and running away. And we've had to obviously turn down a number of them because they just don't have the kind of security that we need for a little girl who's that adventurous.
Yeah, and sometimes, even when they say they do, sometimes they don't. We had a case where Vincent actually had eloped from the school property and crossed a live street and tried to get into a stranger's house, and the school didn't tell us. And they were supposed to enact a safety plan. They were supposed to, do a review, and they were supposed to inform the parents, and that didn't happen. He eloped a second time, and then they told us about the first time. So there's some challenges out there for parents everywhere. And what we've had to do with Vincent is we actually installed a ring security system, not necessarily to keep people out, but to keep them in. So that in the middle of the night, if he opens any window in the house, if he opens any door in the house, the alarm goes off and we just start running. Thankfully he's kind of learned that that's the case now, so he knows he shouldn't be doing that. We've also put one of those, force, I don't even know what you call them, but they're like a latch that closes and it can withstand 800 pounds of force, and you put that on the door. It's to prevent people from getting in, but we put it way at the top, to your point, so he can't reach it. And we didn't trust the chain because he's a problem solver. He will get on a chair, he will move stuff around, and he will figure that out. But he'll probably have to get 15, 16 in order to figure that out. But what do you guys think about our emergency response procedures at this point? Pierre, you wrote that letter, and Mike, I know you're in agreement with it, but do you think anything's going to get done?
I do actually. I think there's broad support for it, and what we think needs to happen is a national, we call it framework. I hate these big bureaucratic words. Basically, it's here's a list of rules to set up the alert system for vulnerable kids, principally autistic kids, but other kids with disabilities. And, in circumstances where one goes missing, it doesn't have to be an abduction for the alert to go out. There should be a threshold, obviously, because you don't want an alert going out just because somebody's munchkin took a little ride around the block and came back 25 minutes later. But you also want it to be sensitive enough that it goes when there is a genuine risk. But that can be established. And then secondly, I think we need to have some more training for first responders and others who coordinate search crews, because children with autism have very specific, as you know, very specific kinds of traits that might help find them. Like, autistic children live in a world of shapes, objects, and sensations. And so water, in this case with young Parker in Calgary, it was a pipe system. I mean, you can imagine that a child who's been to a play center like a Chuck E. Cheese, where they have all these tubes and stuff to climb in, but who doesn't appreciate context the same way as someone who's neurotypical might be attracted to something like that. And so these are the kinds of things that we could train first responders and others who lead search crews for missing kids on, the kinds of places that a child with autism might go. And I have no idea if those things would have made a difference in Parker's case. So I don't want to presume. There's still a lot of information we don't know. But I know that they would help in future cases. And listen, I understand why the Amber Alert system has certain restrictions on it, because we want to make sure that because if people are getting 7 or 8 alerts a day and most of them are false alarms, people just won't look at them anymore. So There is a reason to have some limitation. But I think if you bring together the autism community plus the search teams, the best police minds, police, paramedic, firefighting minds, put together a national rule system that the provinces agree to follow in their alerts, then I think we could save a lot of kids.
So, Mike, when you see these cases come up, do you get flashbacks of any cases of Jaden?
I do. Anytime something comes up, it takes a moment to catch my breath. It's
Right.
because you can picture what that would be like, because it's your worst fear, right? In Jaden's case, when he went to school, we sat down with the school when he first went to school, and the reason he had a full-time aide right from the start of his public school was because of the flight risk. That was the main reason at the start. Was if he didn't have a specific person tasked with watching him, he knew at 5, he knew where the swimming pool was and knew exactly how to get there. In fact, if you made a wrong turn or went a different direction, he would be ba 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 to correct you, to make sure you change direction to go the right direction, because he was watching everything all the time. But no awareness of traffic, but a full knowledge of how to get somewhere. So yes, absolutely. And I'm, along with Pierre, I really do believe something can happen. I've already reached out to Minister Olszewski. We're going to have another conversation this week, actually, towards the end of the week, when I get back to Edmonton. And I do think something can happen. I think that there are great minds. I think we can work with law enforcement. We can work with the autism community. I think what people need to understand is that not every person with autism is a flight risk. There's a very specific sort of part of the autism spectrum, and parents know what their kids are like. To, again, Pierre's point, when something happens, each kid is going to respond a little bit differently. And if we have the right tools, we can really cater a response to the specific kid's interests. I mean, if Jaden did disappear, God forbid, I'd have a pretty good idea of where he might be headed. And it would be different than another kid on the autism spectrum who might have a different interest or might have a different sensitivity to certain sensory experiences or something. So things that Jaden might be drawn to, another kid might actually be prone, not prone to, but apt to avoid. And so if you had that response early in a situation, again, we don't know the specifics of this case, but there are a lot of cases that we look at, and if we have the right conversation at the right time, I think that we can make a real difference for people, for kids.
Pierre, what goes through your mind, or what went through your mind when you heard the tragedy of Parker Wells, when you think of your own family?
Well, I found out about it in a text message from my wife. She was obviously all over this. As soon as the story broke, she was following it minute by minute, and then we obviously began talking about it and sharing our worries about what's going to happen with little Valentina when she's old enough to perform a prison break. And we know how adventurous she is, and it's amazing with Valentina though how she's a daredevil, but she almost never gets hurt. It's the balance, the kind of skill set she has for avoiding self-harm is incredible, considering the risks that she takes when she's jumping, playing, bike riding, swinging. But we know at some point there are limits to that, and we just worry that she's going to, we're going to blink one day and she's going to be gone, and she's going to be seeking out the biggest thrill she can find, and that could be very dangerous. So we worry about it all the time. It is probably the biggest concern in our entire family life, is how do we keep little Valentina safe? So we can relate to this, and our thoughts are with the Wells family. I know they probably did everything they could to protect their little guy, and but in this world there's risks, and we have to do everything we can as a country to mitigate those risks for all children who are suffering from who potentially could find themselves suffering from a situation where they've left and they innocently wanted to go and have a little walk, and all of a sudden they've had no one around, and they were then helpless and in danger. And so I know that there are ways that we can fix the system to minimize those risks, to recruit everybody in society to be allies in protecting all kids, even those who are neurodivergent and whose attributes might be different and hard for neurotypical people to understand. But that's what Mike has engaged in and embarked on, and I'm really excited to see the work that he's going to do with the minister to come up with a national framework for training first responders, for putting out those alerts, for informing the public about what to look for in the event that a child with autism is missing. And I think if we all lock arms and work together, we can do a lot of good. I see no resistance from anybody to improving the system. So I think this is one of those cases where we don't need, at this point anyway, we don't need to pull out the partisan battle axe. We just need to sit down and hammer out a solution. And I have no doubt that all the provinces will sign on once we find that solution.
As Mike said, not all children with autism elope, but estimates out there are about half of them do.
Right.
And there are a lot of autistic kids around the country. And the innocence that makes them so special is unfortunately one of the things that drives this curiosity and drives them to explore. So
we were at a fair once, and there was a little old lady sitting there, I had no idea who she was, and Aunt Valentina spotted her from a distance, ran away from me towards her, and just went and sat in her lap. She never met
Vincent does that
this
too.
woman in her life, but this is just how she is. And another time we were at one of those little outdoor bistros, and there was a couple of teenage girls sitting there having a bite to eat, and Valentina just ran over and sat next to them. Now, in those cases, we were dealing with very nice people, very friendly, who were welcoming to her, and they got a good laugh out of it. They found it charming and fun, but there are bad guys out there, and Valentina doesn't, to be honest, doesn't know anything about bad guys. She just assumes everybody's nice and kind and warm-hearted the way she is. And so that's another risk, is where you have a child that goes roaming and ultimately ends up with an abduction. So, and of course, children with autism are especially vulnerable to that. So that's another thing that we're very focused on, is making sure that the dangers that are out there in the world that include bad guys don't come visiting us, because a child with autism is especially vulnerable to that. And this is part of the conversation of how we keep them safe. How do we keep our kids away from predators and evildoers and dangerous people who unfortunately exist in every country, including ours?
Yeah,
Well, I think-
can I add that just what it is that makes our kids so beautiful, that sense of wonder, that unconditional love for everybody that Pierre just spoke about. Jaden has that exact same attitude towards people. And even if you hurt him in some way, 5 minutes later he'd still be coming back to give you a high five, and he'd forget about what it is, the wrong that had been done to him. He's but what it is that makes them so amazing makes them so vulnerable at the same time. And this is something that we can amplify the beauty of our kids at the same time as we protect them. And I think this is an area where I just see no reason that we can't make a real impact right now, working together to protect our kids.
Well, listen, I would just encourage people to be in contact with their local MLAs or MPPs provincially, and encourage them to work with the federal government to get to a national system of alerts and of training for first responders and search crews. And Mike's going to keep working with the minister. I'll probably give Mr. Carney a nudge next time I see him on this, but I don't see any resistance. It's just a matter of getting it all together and getting it done. And then hopefully we can have an expanded alert system up and running maybe by fall, as early as fall, so that, God forbid, the next time a child with autism goes missing, the alert can immediately go out. Our first responders have the best possible training. The media advisory can inform the public on what they should be looking for, and we could save a lot of lives, and hopefully in the process create a lot of awareness about the unique challenges, but also the wonderful qualities of our youngsters with autism, because we want this to be a world that is welcoming and safe for them too.